Red Bull's emergency investigation isn't about sandbagging, it's about something far more crucial. Behind the smoke and mirrors of Bahrain testing, there's a massive political and technical chess match unfolding. And it could decide whether Max Verstappen stays in Formula One or walks away from the sport entirely. Preseason testing in Bahrain was supposed to give us clarity on the pecking order heading into the radical 2026 regulation era. Instead, it delivered confusion, contradictions, and a storm of accusations. Teams were clearly hiding their true pace. GPS traces told one story, team bosses told another, and drivers were publicly downplaying what the data was screaming. At the center of it all, Red Bull Racing, the team that supposedly hit the ground running with its first ever in-house power unit. But there's a catch. While rivals like Mercedes-AMG, Petronas Formula One team, and Scuderia Ferrari publicly praised Red Bull's energy deployment advantage, Red Bull's own technical director insisted they were only fourth fastest. What the teams aren't telling us is why everyone is so desperate to redirect attention. What if this isn't sandbagging for performance reasons, but positioning for political leverage under the 2026 rules war? Before we move on, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss out on any of our latest videos. Let's break this down properly. Let's slow this down and dissect what's really happening. Because this isn't just about lap times in Bahrain. It's about control, leverage, and survival in the first year of the most radical regulation shift Formula One has seen in decades. First, the sandbagging accusation. Every single team hides performance in testing. That's standard procedure. But what made Bahrain different was how obvious the energy deployment differences were on the GPS traces. If you overlay the straight-line data, Red Bull's car wasn't just peaking higher, it was sustaining deployment longer. That's the key detail most fans missed. Under the $22,000 rules, the electrical component of the power unit becomes dramatically more influential. We're talking about a near 50-50th split between combustion and electric power. That means deployment consistency isn't just a bonus. It's the backbone of lap time. Now, here's the fascinating part. When rival teams like Mercedes publicly claim Red Bull has a half-second to 1 second advantage in energy deployment per lap, that's not casual praise. That's narrative shaping. And narrative matters in Formula One politics. If you look closely at how this story evolved, it feels coordinated. First, whispers in Barcelona that Red Bull hit the ground running. Then Bahrain GPS data showing strong straight-line stability. Then George Russell openly calling them the team to beat. Why would Mercedes elevate Red Bull like that? Because expectations are weapons. If Mercedes underperforms in Melbourne, they've already framed Red Bull as dominant. If they outperform, it becomes a heroic comeback story. That's strategic messaging. But Red Bull's reaction is even more telling. Pierre Wache publicly ranking his own team fourth behind Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren. That's extreme deflection. No technical director casually downplays performance unless there's a deeper reason. And that deeper reason is Verstappen. Let's talk about the contract dynamics. Max Verstappen has performance clauses. That's well documented. If the team isn't competitive, exit options exist. We saw tension in early 2024 when Red Bull's form dipped and internal leadership instability created uncertainty. At the same time, Verstappen openly invested more time in sim racing and endurance interests. That wasn't coincidence. That was leverage. Now layer that onto 2006. Verstappen has openly criticized the new regulations. Slower high-speed cornering, heavier energy management, and cars that feel more artificial. He even compared the experience unfavorably to Formula E. That's not just frustration. That's a philosophical clash. Verstappen's driving identity is built on instinct, precision at high speed, and mechanical connection. If the cars become overly dependent on harvesting phases and lift-and-coast discipline, that changes the emotional core of driving. Red Bull knows this. When Horner says, "It's not my goal to make him happy, we make him happy by winning." That sounds blunt, but it reveals the entire strategy. Performance is the only glue holding this partnership together under these regulations. Now, let's examine the engine situation more technically. Red Bull's in-house power unit project was considered a massive gamble. They moved away from reliance on established manufacturers and built their own infrastructure. That's years of investment, recruitment battles, and technical risk. Yet the Bahrain traces suggest something impressive: smooth transition from harvesting to deployment. Notice how there's minimal drop-off at the end of straights. That indicates strong battery thermal efficiency and intelligent energy mapping. This isn't about raw horsepower. It's about usable energy over a full lap. And if Red Bull has mastered sustained deployment while others are still balancing cooling and regeneration trade-offs, that's a foundational advantage. But here's the twist. If they are truly ahead, why investigate internally? Because sandbagging works both ways. Red Bull needs internal clarity. They need to know where the rivals are bluffing about their own pace. If Mercedes is hiding combustion power while emphasizing Red Bull's electric strength, that shifts the narrative battlefield. Formula One development direction is shaped early. If the paddock collectively believes Red Bull has solved deployment, teams may overcorrect their own concepts chasing a ghost. That's the domino effect. Formula One development direction is shaped early. If the paddock collectively believes Red Bull has solved deployment, teams may overcorrect their own concepts chasing a ghost. That's the domino effect. If Red Bull dominates early 2026, Verstappen's doubts quiet down. The in-house engine project gains instant legitimacy. Mercedes loses its historical power unit aura. Ferrari faces renewed internal scrutiny. Customer teams reconsider long-term partnerships. But if Red Bull miscalculates, if Melbourne reveals they're genuinely fourth fastest, that's dangerous. Because Verstappen's patience under regulations he already dislikes could evaporate quickly. Watch the body language from Bahrain carefully. Verstappen laughed when asked about Mercedes being behind, but it wasn't relaxed laughter. It felt measured, almost strategic, like he's keeping his cards close. And Russell's wording is equally fascinating. Pretty scary. Half a second to a second. Those aren't neutral phrases. That's deliberate amplification. This entire preseason feels like poker. Mercedes pointing at Red Bull pointing at Ferrari and McLaren. Verstappen pointing back at Mercedes. No one wants the favorite label. Historically, the team that downplays hardest often knows more than they admit, but the team that launches internal investigations? That's a team that understands the stakes are existential. Because this isn't just about winning Melbourne, it's about convincing the sport's biggest star that the new era is worth staying for. And that might be the most important development battle of 2026. So here's the real question. Is Red Bull downplaying a revolutionary advantage? Or are they scrambling behind the scenes to prevent another season that pushes Verstappen closer to the exit door?